What's going on, everybody? This is Landon from Power Up Academy and Vertex Performance. And on today's episode, we have Dr. Christopher Alexander as our guest. And he's known as the professor of gaming, or the gaming professor here in Toronto, because he is a huge advocate for all things gaming in the area. And we're going to be discussing how academia is starting to introduce esports and gaming into curriculum or research. And we're going to kind of talk about how students can get involved, or if your university or college isn't using esports and gaming yet, how you can approach them and bring it to your school and how you can get them on board. But we're also going to be talking about how you can do that with parents and how to get parents involved and why it's important that parents are supporting esports. On top of that, we're really just going to be having a good time and having a conversation. We'll probably talk about a bunch of random things and just see where the conversation takes us.
So my name is Dr. Chris Alexander, and I am known as the professor of video games. Specifically, I look at video game design, video games broadcasting that includes virtual production and esports infrastructure. So I'm excited to be here with my quest actually being a legitimization of both video games and esports through academic research and publication. Thank you so much for having me, Landon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's funny that you mentioned academic research, because that's one of my missions too. And right now, I'm sure you saw that I'm working with one of the Ryerson professors to kind of produce some academic research, and I'm so stoked. It's going to be one of my first actual legitimate academic proceedings within the esports space. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be so much fun.
I'm one revision away from having the second study approved, which you're going to be a part of. So I'm excited.
Yes, let's go. Let's go. I'm excited.
Like I'm telling you, the data, I think I told you about it before. We're polling the entire student body to find out the correlation between what games they like and what departments they're in, just so we could start building infrastructure based on that.
Right.
I don't have to say, like the work we did at a previous institution, I don't have to say, oh, we need to do these games. I need to just be like, look, out of all these students in these departments, these are the games they play. Yeah. This is how you can help, So.
Yeah, it really kind of just helps identify, like, what are people doing? Because I know there's a lot of people saying, I should be doing this game, you should be doing that game, but really, who knows until you actually go in and dig for the data.
Just ask.
Just ask, exactly.
They're not gonna not tell you. Gamers are not gonna not tell you. I would tell you, so they would tell you.
It's true. I like to tell everybody that I play League of Legends. It's nonstop. That's all I talk about.
All I talk about is Street Fighter 3 Third Strike all the time. That's what I do. People know. Like, it's not even. So yeah, they're gonna tell us. I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Actually, on that note, when you said Street Fighter, what games are you big into right now? What's your favorite? Like, if you were to sit down right now and challenge me to something, what would you want to play me in?
I don't know if it would be nice to challenge you. Okay, so I was globally ranked in Street Fighter 3 Third Strike on the PlayStation Network with the lowest tier character in the game, Sean Matsuda. So it wouldn't be fun. A game that would be fun was a game I just picked up, Super Smash Brothers. I play as Bowser, and there were students who could convincingly defeat me at the beginning, and now I can hold my own. So those are the two games. I was number one in Light Seekers like a year ago, but I stopped playing that game. I moved over to Legends of Runeterra now, and I'm like, what? I don't know. I think I'm like Silver 1. I don't know if that's important or whatever. I don't know. I just played a game, and I enjoy it. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, all right. I haven't played. I think I downloaded Runeterra, and then I don't even think I've played a game yet. But, I mean, I love Riot, so, I mean, I probably should, right? Support my people at Riot. But
it's a good game. I enjoy it. It's simple, and it's complex at the same time. Those are the best ones. It's like Animal Crossing. Anyways.
Sweet. I'll definitely take you in on Smash someday, because I'm also a Bowser player. So
oh!
We'll have a little bit of a Ditto match there.
That'd be dope. We should stream it.
Oh, yeah, we can stream it. I also play Banjo, though. It's like, actually, my 3 is Bowser, Banjo, and Piranha Plant. I'm ready to throw down on all 3 of them. I'll lose on all 3, but I'm ready to throw down. And I will trash talk the whole way through.
Who would I pick? I think I would do Bowser, Ken, and Terry. And sometimes Sonic. Yeah.
Okay. I can't do Ken and Terry just because I don't have a Street Fighter or any kind of fighting game background at all. So it's just like trying to use those characters is a little bit too complex for my simple brain.
They're awesome. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, it's great to chat to you again. I know that we haven't chatted in a hot minute, but I'm excited to catch up a little bit right now. The first question I really wanted to ask you and kind of go into, just for anybody listening, is why are you into esports? Like, why did you choose to get a PhD in what you did, and why are you choosing to pursue esports, and why are you streaming, and why are you playing? And I know I've seen your office at the school, and I know that there's a big green screen, or your walls painted green, and it's all decked out. It's pretty much like a nerd heaven.
Yeah.
Why esports? Why gaming?
Well, the answer is simple. Because I've been playing for the last 30 years. That's
Yeah,
why.
let's go.
You know what I mean, I'm not one of those people that are just like, oh, esports is cool. Let me drop in. I'm finally at a stage in my life where I can talk about my life openly now. You know what I mean? Like, you said all these things that I guess even 10 years ago you'd have said, people would be like, oh, there's something wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
But now, in video games, obsession with Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, globally ranked in 2 games, that's a very different conversation now. So really, my quest the entire time has been to legitimize what I've been doing for years. And I know in this new generation, they have the same excitement that I have for the games because we often play the same games. So it's about legitimization for those who are external to the community so we can receive congruent support for the potency that we know exists within the video games and esports realms.
Yeah, man. Like I remember, I'm pretty much the same way. Like I've been playing games since probably like 3 or 4 years old. Like it's just been such an integral part of my life. Like every step of the way. There's never been a point in my life where I wasn't a gamer, and that I mean that fully sincere. Like I have never not been a gamer, and I remember even as early as in my undergrad days. Like I was freshman year in my undergrad days. Oh, I don't remember when that was. 2013 or something like that. 2012. I don't remember for sure. Even as early as that, like one of my friends, we had to do like a introduce your friend in our first undergrad course, and she was going to introduce me as this is Landon and he loves video games, and I got so embarrassed, and that's only like 7 years ago, and I was like mortified because like still at that point it wasn't cool, it wasn't exciting, and I didn't want anybody to know that I'd go home and play League of Legends for a few hours. Like, I didn't want that out there, and oh man, it's been a long battle, but it's nice to be the cool kid now that we're in esports, right?
But when you say cool, it's substantiated cool. You know what I'm saying? This is not you just talking about games.
Yeah.
Look at the history just provided. You know what I mean? There's wisdom in there. And I think we have a responsibility to talk about that and help uplift the youth to show them the holistic potential of video games for all disciplines, particularly in academia.
It's true. Yeah, absolutely. Like even growing up too with my parents and whatnot, I knew that I wanted to do something in gaming. I didn't know what it was because like gaming or esports was still like on the verge of happening. It wasn't quite there. But it was very hard to describe what I wanted to do or what I wanted to achieve in life because it wasn't legitimized and it wasn't substantiated and it wasn't any other kind of eyes out there. Like it was still like this little closet thing that a group of people had passion for, but it wasn't legitimate yet. There was no career in it. That's crazy. Yeah. And it's awesome to see where it's come to now.
It's so good. It's so good. Yeah. So yeah. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited when people ask questions about it because one of the things my dad would always tell me, when people ask questions, it means often by default, they want to hear the answer. So it's great that they ask questions. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So here's a good question, or here's something we can discuss right off the bat. Growing up, and when I was deciding to go into like a career, right? Like at that point, like I mentioned, gaming wasn't something that we could do. And I went in and I got a degree in psychology, and I was still trying to navigate what I want to do in life because I really wanted gaming, but I didn't know how to turn that into a career. So I went through psychology and then kind of progressed forward and then found a way to get a master's in sport performance psychology. And then I found a way to take like a traditional field that people would apply to business or sports or anything like that. And I found a way to bring that into esports.
Yeah.
What do you think universities and colleges need to do now, like to bring more people in? Do you think they should be advertising in esports, or like how do we get collegiate and varsity people or universities on board with this whole idea of come to us and we'll help you find a career? It might not be in streaming or competing, but like there's careers out there.
So my direct answer to that is infrastructure. What do I mean? Well, I know certain companies are interested in graphic designers, AAA companies. Certain AAA companies are interested in event management, 3D art and animation, programming, and these are all different architecture, engineering, physics, and science. These are all things that are inside of video games and esports. It's about making those curricular ties. And the biggest example I give is I could have been a mathematician. And I'll tell you how. On the very first day of high school math, my teacher could have put up a still image from Street Fighter 2 and a character throwing a fireball toward another character. They could have listed all the mathematical concepts associated with that image. I would have been done. You're telling me that in order to talk about this, I have to learn this? I'm done. But that's a curricular thing
Yeah.
that needs to happen. But the bigger question is, how are we going to inform academia about these connections? Because statistically, there's a disconnect. You and I know the average age of the esports enthusiast and the video game players between the ages of 18 and 35.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in Canada, the average age of the full-time faculty member who has the ability to create infrastructure, imbue curriculum with these ties to industry, that average age in Canada is 51. So in terms of an actual disconnect demographically,
Sir.
that's the gap that we need to fill. We need to educate to link that. And that's not just in terms of tenured faculty, it's also for parents. If there's a disconnect between parents who don't play video games, how can you tell them that if their child is going into law school, they have the potential for a long career in video games and esports law? You tell a family that wants their child to be a lawyer and the child that doesn't want to be a lawyer that they could just go to school,
Yep.
study esports and video games law. I think things will change just a bit, but we need those ties to exist.
Absolutely. Oh, that we're gonna touch on that parent thing later on
Yeah.
for sure. Let's because that's a whole entire 5-hour conversation by itself. But one of the fascinating things that I found is like you're right, like they're the esport enthusiasts or the gaming enthusiasts, like you said, is so much younger than that like the university structure, and there's definitely a disconnect. And I remember when I was doing my master's program, I went to my professor and I was nervous because like this is a cohort of people that love business and they love sports, particularly like rugby and cricket. Like I'm out of my element when it comes to these things. I don't know what these are, and I come up and I like sit in his office and I'm nervous and I like kind of shaking a little bit. And I sit down like what would you think if I was to write a report on, and then I paused and I was like, what on esports? And like I was so nervous that this dude in his 50s was gonna just kind of like laugh me out of the room, be like, no, pick a real thing, like don't. But to my surprise, like he was all for it, and like just having, even though he didn't know about it per se, like because his response was, he's like, I've heard of it, like I don't really know what it is. He's like, and then he almost defended it to me. He's like, but you know what? Like if I'm thinking about it, like it's a performance domain. You have to like be skillful in it. You have to train in it. You need support structures. You need competition. You need all these things. He started like almost defending this thing that I loved, and he didn't even know about it. And like, I think that was the first push for me into my esports career, because at that point I still hadn't decided that esports was where I was going. I was still probably do traditional sports. I love the psychology of high performance. So I was just gonna do traditional sports. And when he like kind of green lit me for that and like and kind of put his foot on the gas for me, like man, that just motivated me. Having somebody in my corner, even though they didn't understand it, that was just like boom, there we go, let's go, let's make it happen.
To me, it sounds like you've just described openness. Now,
Yeah.
that's all you need. If you have a human that admits that I don't get it, and then they say but afterwards, that's it. But if you have no response and no acknowledgement of the existence or acknowledgement of the numbers that are out there and the amount of people and the congruence between who plays and who's paying to go to post-secondary institutions, that's a different conversation. Openness is the biggest and the first step, in my view, to imbuing infrastructure with video games and esports. It's fine. There are situations where I talk to computer science departments, for example, and they'll be telling me about what they're teaching. They say, oh, I teach in computer science. And I'll say, oh, you're teaching video games. And they say, no, we're not. And I said, yes, you are. They say, no, you're not. I said, oh, okay, are you teaching about advanced physics? Yes. Are you teaching about quaternions? Yes. Are you talking about frustum and frustum culling? Are you looking at rope dimensions and physics and buoyancy and Ken Perlin's 3D noise? And they're like looking at me like, how does he know all this? Like, yo, that's the stuff in video games, it's the same physics. And when I tell them that, they're like, oh, I thought that if it was fun, it wouldn't include my superpower. You just have to be able to articulate to somebody from a specific field where exactly what they do exists in the realm, and you'll get that openness. But if there's a shield, man, it's difficult. And most of my job now is breaking down shields. And as we know in Smash Brothers, if you hold down your shield long enough, it'll break. And then you'll break. The goal is to get them to let go of the R button. So maybe they'll perfect shield it, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's one of those things. Openness is critical.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was like really like I spent the next however long of my career or my master's program like explaining it to him and getting him involved in it. And like I started from writing a case study on Bjergsen and his transition from Denmark into LA, and it led all the way up to doing like my entire dissertation focused on mental fatigue in esports. Like because of that openness, like I'm sitting in a sweet facility, I'm working with athletes and I'm working with different esports organizations across the world, all because he said yes to me writing a report on esports.
That's it.
Like it's
You've
crazy.
nailed it. You have literally prescribed what academia needs to do.
Yeah.
And as you described it, though, you've been incredibly fortunate that that happened for you.
Oh, so
Because
fortunate.
I know there are a myriad of students who are trying to knock on doors and being dismissed because they're students. Fun fact, I'll walk into a room, people know I'm globally ranked in video games, and that same shield is up. They won't say to me, and I would love it, how does what I do, and then they name their discipline, exist in the video games realm? That would be the most incredible exercise for me to go through.
Yeah, everybody, honestly, like everybody is just a stone's throw away from being in esports. Like you shift a little bit of a thought and all of a sudden you're in gaming, friend. You're right there with me.
Accurate. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So here's a question then for let's say students that are listening or potentially listening to this video. How, or let's pretend like I'm a student. How can I approach a professor that has their shield up, or how can I approach a faculty member that has their shield? How can I best break down those barriers?
Well, there are two responses. They're the one that actually promotes my research.
Yep.
Once I start publishing the numbers, they'll be able to say, hey, look at this study. This is where I can go academically with what I'm doing with this game and how much I love it relative to the field that I want to go into. Right now, it's really tough because we don't have enough publication of data that substantiates the necessity for infrastructure. We have a lot of people that are publishing studies about, yes, it's cool, yes, it can, and yes, it should, but where are the ties with regard to the population that plays? And I know once we get there, it's going to be a little bit easier. But I would say to that student, keep playing. And if you believe in something and you see it and you're looking at sites like hitmarkerjobs.com, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. In Canada, the video games and jobs market in video games is up 18%, according to the Electronic Standards Association of Canada, ESAC, totaling roughly 48,000 jobs from 2017 to now. You imagine saying a parent saying to you, oh, there are no jobs in the video games realm. You go to Hitmarker, you show them the ESAC study. What are they gonna say? But that's published substantiation. Those are lists of jobs at Hitmarker where you can be like, look, this is where I want to go. This is where the jobs are. But unless we have like what you often see in UK, they have academic structures that mimic the data that the government grabs for what jobs are available. Unless we have those types of publications and videos like this, because you can't expect every human to want to read an academic paper.
No.
You have to look toward people like you, people like myself, to explain this in quick, short videos to be like, yo, mom, dad, watch this video real quick.
Exactly.
And tell me what you think. You know what I mean? Like, I feel that's part of my responsibility, legitimization through, because in one video, you'll see me talking like this. And in another video, you'll see me playing Legends of Runeterra and see like, and then you'll say to your parents, look, he does both. I can do both too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just examples that we got to put out there. So yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Like again, going back 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, there wasn't those job boards like Hitmarker really readily available. And me trying to convince somebody that there's a career in esports, impossible. I still, just because of my like sheer stubbornness and unwilling to give up my dream of esports, I still found myself in it eventually.
And we understand that it's not that easy for everybody. For example, at a previous institution, a good buddy of mine, Jeffrey LaChapelle, who you've met,
Many times.
He helped to establish scholarships that we could help humans who could not afford to go into post-secondary institutions, couldn't afford it, but they're good at video games, to establish a pathway for them to have their school paid for, access to gear, but a condition of keeping their grades up if gameplay is part of their entrance, similar to what they do at varsity, right? But those models already exist. It's possible. Just look at the data in terms of who plays, and let's make those pathways.
Absolutely.
If they look at what would happen with enrollment, holistic enrollment, not just building a lab and roping humans in, academia could change indefinitely
Oh
because,
my goodness.
yeah, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Like I like, I know that there's a big fight that's still left to come for getting all these things in school. I understand that there is still a lot of work that we gotta do. But wow, I cannot be more excited about the future because like every few months there's just leaps and leaps of new progress, and it's just so much fun to be part of. It's actually part like a lot of fun to be part of these like entry days of like laying all the groundwork and getting everything established. Because I mean, I think a lot of people have that passion. I do as well, where it's like making sure that people don't have to go through the struggles that we did in terms of getting into gaming, where it's like you don't have to fight to prove that your career is legitimate, and you don't have to fight to show your faculty that's true, like it's actually a real thing. I want to make sure that the next generation doesn't have to fight those.
The way that I usually articulate it in my classes is that we are currently inside of a black and white photo with regard to esports and video games. We're inside of that black and white photo. They're going to talk about this as laying the groundwork in the future, but that's it. Nobody is going to be concerned about my study until after the data are published.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, wow, look at this. This is what's going on in school. And you'll see what will happen to enrollment if like, oh, whoa. If Ryerson is investing to do research, the work that you're doing, and in what students are actually doing,
Yeah.
they're serious. Look, family, that's how serious they are. This is the black and white photo that I know we're in right now. You know what I mean? And just like you being stubborn about your dreams, nobody's going to tell me that I don't love Street Fighter. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's going to tell me that there were hundreds of jobs that went into Street Fighter and then Capcom Cup. And then, you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's not for me to accept anybody telling me it's not the case. If they're saying this to me, immediately all I hear is, you must not know. Because to say it without looking at anything on the internet, you just out yourself real quick. You know what I mean? Like, it's just read up just a little bit. How much does esports make? What kind of jobs are related? Just real quick. Just that.
I feel like you could even just type esports and hit enter, and you'd already come up with all the info you need.
Just try it out.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
Yeah, man. There's esportsresearch.net, which is a community-supported aggregation of all publications involving esports. Look at that. The list is so long right now for substantiation in the realm of esports that like how could we can't pretend anymore. We can't. It's been fun to pretend that video games and esports are not the future of how we can educate at least. It's been fun, but yeah, let's start talking about how we're gonna actually move this forward now, you know?
Absolutely agree. So you were mentioning that esports and gaming can help increase enrollment. Let's talk about like a little bit earlier on the academic career, and we're looking at like the elementary, junior high, senior high level kids, because I know that it's starting to be shown a little bit that having strong either curriculars or extracurriculars revolving around esports and gaming in your younger school systems can help prevent dropout and also increase the engagement of kids when they're actually in their classrooms or wanting to make sure that they're getting better grades because they want to be able to play on the Rocket League team. Like, how important or how crucial do you think it is that these schools start actually introducing esports in one fashion or another to their curriculum?
I'll give you a case study that's from post-secondary but totally related, all right? When we worked at that previous institution, both Jeffrey and I worked together to help build, and Kevin Tang and David McLaughlin and Jackie O'Manor, we worked together to establish frameworks for the esports competitive scene, varsity, whatever you want to call it, establish frameworks that no team member was going to be allowed to play on any of the teams if they had a average below 70%. Now, in the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 team, who ranked #1 in all of North America, they were meeting for practice, but they were also meeting to make sure nobody slipped their GPA below that average, okay? Because they were doing so well, the team was working together both on and off the court. That is an example, an undocumented example, which would be great if I could talk to that and build a case study in that way, but I wasn't in an institution that favored research in that way. I'm here now at Ryerson. If that data were published in a way that people could be like, hold on a second, high school, well, why don't we find out what the kids are playing in high school?
Yep.
publish that data to the parents. Let's make teams and say, yo, if your grades go below here, can't play on the teams. You already know. I'm preaching to the choir here, really.
Yeah.
Again, it needs to be something where the people that are in charge of building these frameworks display an openness to be willing to have this conversation. If the government of Ontario has just suggested
Yep.
that we need to move our curriculum as early as grade 1 towards coding, what do you think the easiest vehicle to teach humans how to code would be? A black screen and DOS? No. A video game.
There it is.
Coding from Ubisoft. You see what I'm saying? Like, there's so much potential to tell these students, elementary, high school, hey guys, there's a video game that you're gonna play, and once you get to the end, show us your certificate and we know you're good to go with regard to coding. That's a reality that should be explored, because you're gonna say, oh, well, we don't have the staff, we don't have the faculty. Cool. Ubisoft has been working on educational programs for a while in this realm. There are tons of other companies who are looking for opportunities to educate because they've got a workforce to worry about in the future. Of course, it makes sense to start educating in elementary and high school about coding, because then you get started earlier. The mind is more open to accepting these incredible laws of physics and quaternions. Anyway, so that's my long-winded answer to saying, if we could get there from the beginning, but at the same time, you need humans in there who are open to allowing it and trying. But to be clear, there should be substantiation available to them to say, oh, why am I doing this? Because you say it's cool? No, read these studies. You know what I'm saying? Because I get it, especially with the work I do now. I get why it's difficult. If you don't play, you can't, it's unlikely that you know maybe some anecdotes from your little ones or your relatives. And those aren't going to be anecdotes that are necessarily beneficial to your perception. We need actual substantiation that speaks to specific interests, like key performance indicators. What is the link between what students are taking in school, what games they play, and what jobs are readily available for them, to them when they leave? If that kind of data are published, and then coming in, they're saying, hey, come to our school because these are the games our students play. Do you play these games? You belong here in these programs, and these are the jobs that are waiting for them at the end when you start in year 1 versus when you leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, if could make substantiated decisions, it would be easier. But now it's going like outside in, where people are just seeing big numbers and they're like, how is this happening? Oh no, I know how to handle how big this is going by not talking about it at all. That's peculiar. That's peculiar.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy to me that some people, especially like in the education side of things, aren't jumping on board. Because it's the way I always described it, whether it's like parents or teachers, is that we've been handed this amazing tool, it's amazing vessel to teach the next generation on how do you handle life, how do you handle stressful situations, how do you plan for your future, how do you communicate with teammates, how do you build a project. Like, I feel like we've been handed this unbelievably powerful tool that we aren't utilizing to its full potential yet.
There is a conversation I had with a colleague of mine, Sean Haswell, brilliant man, who we have conversations about technology and technology in the classroom all the time. One of the conversations we had about 7 years ago now was about coding in school and human overall understanding of process. Now, stick with me, okay?
All right, I'm with you.
When I was younger, they taught us code, okay? They taught us the basics of coding. We were using Turing and we were using Java, but what they were really teaching us was that there's a process. Something needs to happen in order for something else to happen, right? Later on, overwhelmingly, that got wiped out. And if you look at cell phone development, there's often in the classroom now, we have to teach our students where save files go because modern technology puts everything in the cloud automatically for you.
Yeah.
Right? So there was a generation of humans like myself and yourself who know that there's something that needs to happen in order for something else to happen. There are some people that just want it to work. And a lot of those could be at the beginning of learning technology and at the end of learning technology. But I can tell you right now that those two numbers of the learning technology and not being introduced to process absolutely outweigh those who are interested in figuring out those processes. Now, there's a gap there because you mentioned how are they going to pass up this opportunity? Well, I could believe it. If you don't know what or where your save files go on your phone, how could you even imagine that there are actual physics inside of video games that students and humans that play video games know? if they go to pick up a pistol or they go to pick up a shotgun, they will say immediately, whoa, why is this shotgun so light? They can feel it in the game. They know to make a connection between what those numbers actually are because they're programmed in there and put it in a lesson format in a game that they play, which you have the statistics to substantiate. Come on. That's a magical journey for a student. I know it's possible, and I'm waiting for somebody to say, no, it's not, Chris, and here's why it's a bad idea. Haven't seen it yet, but it's tricky, and I get it's scary. Something like this is going to happen in my own life, but I doubt it's going to be in video games. You know what I'm saying? So if we could just have honest conversations about it. Listen, we don't necessarily know the process to getting our curriculum imbued with video games. I dare anybody to look at the progression of learning the Unreal Engine put out by Epic Games. They scaffold you. There are quizzes and tests that you can do over and over and over again until you get it. They've nailed it. I would actually like to publish a paper on it as a successful model. You know what I'm saying? But this is the kind of stuff I study. People often don't know, like, oh, Unreal is so hard. I'm like, yo, the developer themselves, the creator of the engine has put out a holistic approach to learning its own engine, obviously for the benefit of the company, but think about all the incidental learning that you'll get on the way to publishing or building your own dream. It's there already. It's already there. But again, it's frightening, man. How are you gonna have an honest conversation with somebody? I will tell you that I'm not a programmer and I don't know how to program, but I've worked with programmers for the last 5 years. That's why I know about quaternions and all this stuff, but I can't calculate that yet. Haven't figured it out. And I'm willing to admit that, but we live in a world where humans are not willing to admit shortcomings. I mean, I'll do it to a certain extent, but if we could just be like, yo, this school is not yet video game friendly, cool. Let's roll, let's figure it out. Let's just admit and roll on, man. Like, so, yeah, I don't know what question I was supposed to be answering.
Honestly, I don't remember either, but that's the joy of conversation is who knows where you're going to end up, eh?
Turned into a class lecture. Anyways, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't even remember what question we started with here, but that doesn't really matter. But it's, you know what, like, when I think about it, I don't find, when I'm talking to, like, a teacher or a parent, parents maybe more so, but teachers aren't usually resistant against it, but they have no idea what it's about. Like, I'll tell them, like, esports is doing this or gaming is doing this, and they're like, oh, that's cool. But that's where the conversation kind of ends, is they aren't really willing to dig into it further than that. They're not necessarily resistant, but it's just not there yet. And I find there is quite a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to trying to get something as controversial as gaming into it, right?
So even when you say the word controversial, I'm like, yo, don't say that. It's not controversial.
It's not. That's why I did the quotation marks.
In production and broadcasting and consumption, like, that's not controversial. There's a lot of substantiation about the numbers. Let's talk about the process to getting to these numbers, you know? Like, what would happen if each elementary school student by grade 8 had to make their own role-playing game with a store that had some kind of currency and conversations written by them? Do you have any idea how many Ontario curricular ties there is in just that scenario I just told you?
Here's a little anecdote from my own life. Do you want to know how I learned how to, maybe not like learn how to manage money, but you know how I learned how to plan my money and manage it and save up for something? RuneScape.
Do you see what I'm saying? You have to publish that paper. You have to publish that paper, dude. It's important. It's important. Money management in, you didn't say Runeterra, you said RuneScape.
RuneScape, yeah. Going OG.
That's a paper, though. Explain how you did it, why you did it, how it's handled, and when you get hardcore enough, you could absolutely contact the developer who worked on the system and feature them in the paper. Show them some love. They were a teacher for you.
Honestly, yeah, because I used to sit there way back in the day. For anybody that plays RuneScape, it's much easier now, but I used to like try and
Street Fighter. Go ahead.
I used to try to plan. I was like, okay, I need to get my rune armor, which was I think 65,000 gold pieces or GP back then. I believe it's been a long time, but I used to like figure out how long or how much money I needed, and then I'd come up with a system because they have like their skills and whatever leveling up. So I would figure out like, okay, if I kill green dragons, I can get the hides and the bones, and I can use the hides, I can tan them and create things and then sell that. Get this much money.
Finite math, okay.
Oh, it was like an entire system. One, learn how to learn how to plan, learn how to manage money. It's even almost like business development in a sense, because you're planning on like, okay, I need to use these skills to get these raw materials to create these items so that I can sell them to this person, and now I got my rune. Let's
Yep.
go. Done. Like
But unless you let that story out, Landon, people are just gonna say, "Oh, RuneScape is a ridiculous game." You have to explain. Like I was talking in another panel or something. People were like, "Oh, how have video games helped you?" I said, "Video games have saved my life and helped me save money." They said, "How?" So my dad came to my doctoral defense, which was all about video games. Okay. And after I defended and won, I said to my dad, he said he was proud of me, the usual stuff. And I said, "Yo, Dad, how come you never stopped me from playing as many video games as you saw me play?" And he smiled and said the thing that destroyed me as a child. He said, "Son, the reason why I was okay with you playing video games as much as you did is because I knew when I turned on CP24, you weren't going to be there." I was like, yo, this guy was like, you were not going to be on the streets. You were in here fighting on the streets in Street Fighter, but you were not going to get in any trouble out there. So that's why I let you go. And now you're defending your PhD. The second thing, I love hardcore long JRPGs. And the reason why is because my parents were laid off of their jobs. And I was responsible to help pay tuition and put some of my siblings through post-secondary education. But I also wanted to have fun. So how could I pay for something just for me once, maybe every 3 months? Japanese role-playing games. You buy one game, I could spend all the rest of my money on supporting my family and then get back into it. I want to publish a study about that so that somebody at home in a similar situation can see, oh my gosh, video games could save me too. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a layer of education that's just missing for somebody who's disconnected to hear that story. I don't think they'd be able to say, oh, it's all violence anymore if they heard that story. But those stories don't make the news. They don't. Not yet, anyway. They will.
Soon. Absolutely soon. I mean, every once in a while I hear something pop up on a radio or news. And I think you said a couple of times that you've been contacted by some radio or TV people here and there. And like TSN is getting on it. I don't know. It's coming. It's coming.
It's coming. And what the bittersweet thing about this pandemic is that people have been forced to start fact checking. Because how many articles since March 11th could they keep saying about video games being violent? You saw the World Health Organization reverse their stance on video games and addiction because now it's literally saving the sanity of so many people. The Animal Crossing. You know what I'm saying? It was easy to make a fun case for it, but really, the amount of things that I'm doing in Animal Crossing with my own family and friends, yo, come on. Why aren't we talking about that? Well, we have to now because the news can't just keep saying, whoa, battle royales are this and battle royales are that. It's just not, it's not a good business model. So now we get to dive deeper into the nuances of the medium. And a lot of people are coming out of this saying, wow, it's a pretty great medium. And a lot of people who gave up on video games were like, let me just see, hold on a second. On the Epic Game Store, there's a free game all the time. I could have gotten Grand Theft Auto 5 for free. Yes, that's possible. And a ton of other games like Air and Hue and Grifflands, just a demo, though that game is hot fire. Anyway, people don't know that gaming is so much more accessible than it was when they last played. But the media is now starting to be like, oh, well, what else can we say about video games? Okay, let's try this. And it's working. It's working. Anyway, go ahead.
You're right. Like with accessible too. It's like even with Microsoft releasing their accessible controller, like that's huge. Why isn't that just being blasted on all the media? Like gaming isn't accessible to people that can't use a keyboard and mouse or a controller. Now it is. Like we
Absolutely.
Like it's huge. Like name me a sport out there that you can introduce like somebody who doesn't have the capability to do something into the general population like gaming does. You can't. Like gaming is the only thing that is like can incorporate everybody.
Yo, so I just want to tell you in the middle right now, you have mentioned at least 4 to 5 publishable papers have come out of your mouth.
Hold on, let me get a pen and paper real quick.
You gotta write that down, dude, man. That one was hot fire.
Yeah.
The accessibility in video games versus traditional sport, access to play via the Xbox 360, the accessibility controller rather. Come on. Flame.
Huge.
Of course, Microsoft would back that too. That's the purpose behind making the controller, right? So anyway.
Oh yeah. No, I've got a full list of papers and ideas that I'm ready to go. And I'm looking for the spot. Like actually, so with the PhD process that I want to go through, I've actually, and this is kind of speaking to the issue with the universities that we talked about earlier, is I've been having a hard time finding a university that has a psychology department that wants to back esports right now. And because that's my field, right? Like I got psychology degree, master's in sports psychology, and I want to continue mixing that psychology mix. And I'll go to a university professor, and I will blanket email all the professors in the psychology department. I'm like, this is who I am. This is what I do right now as work. And this is the kind of research I want to do with the psychology department. Are you interested? And to date I'm not joking, I've sent dozens upon dozens upon dozens of emails, and everybody's like, that sounds neat. We're not interested in studying esports. And I'm like, what do you mean? How are you not interested in studying esports yet? It's 2020.
Remember my demographic that I
Yeah.
expressed from Statista. Remember that. But also, it's not, I told you about the black and white photo.
Yeah.
That type of response makes sense if we are at the beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It makes perfect sense. I did my dissertation on video games and the link between video game design and curricular development, not the fun bits, 10 years ago. 10 years ago now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that is a situation where people are reading it now being like, whoa, what department? Yeah, that was Concordia University in Montreal that was forward thinking enough to allow me in. Shout outs to my supervisor, Vivek Venkatesh.
There we go.
Anyway, but like this is an example of, I don't get it, but let's try it. Now, of course, there were hurdles to overcome there, but I've always believed in the black and white photo. One yes is going to equal another yes. And that yes 10 years ago now, I say professor of video games, and people, let me read this paper. A lot of people come out, they read the paper. I'm like, yo, this 141 page thing might have some of the ways of saving academia.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm like, well, the only issue with my dissertation, which I found out, was in order to really get it, you have to have played the games that I referenced inside of my paper to understand the gaps, pitfalls, and support for the academic research and theories that are out there. And that's tricky to find a human unless it's you. You know what I'm saying? Like but if you're inside of a black and white photo, it makes good sense. You can't get frustrated. You have to hold your controller and be like, yo, I know that this is a future, and you just keep going.
Yeah, I'll never stop emailing people until I find the person that says yes. I'll just keep on hammering and hammering every single university I find until one person's like, let's go.
Well, what's going to happen is after you publish your first study and we publish another one, because there's some other stuff I got to talk to you about with what your superpower is and what it is I'm trying to collect the data.
Okay.
That you're totally going to enjoy. If you have your name on 2 papers,
done,
and then you're applying, they're going to be like, well, esports, we don't know if it's like, but I just published these 2 papers from these peer-reviewed journals. Like, really? Is that because now the closer you get, the tougher it's going to be? And really, the response from email is like, yo, we don't want to deal with that. And that's okay. You're going to find your spot. I found one 10 years ago. You're definitely going to find one now. Of course you are. There's no escape. And that's a quote from Street Fighter 3 Alex when he walks in. He says you can't escape when he does his super. Anyway, so that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot, but I mean, I think these conversations are going really nicely. I know that one last note about the doing a PhD in esports right now is it's interesting that nobody in psychology wants to dive into this more. I know that it's starting to pop up, especially in Europe. They're very on board with doing esports research in Europe, but it's like, in psychology, everybody wants to make their mark. They want to be the people that come up with new information or new thoughts or new processes. So it blows my mind that people aren't jumping on esports in psychology right now. Because like this is a new field that you can become like the king or queen of the esports in psychology, and it just nobody's interested in it yet. But
there's an asterisk there though. The asterisk is if you're open or if you get it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but that's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Like, I have students that come to my classes. We play the theory in the classes. We play a game every single week that's directly tied to academic research and readings. And oftentimes, it's peer-reviewed papers of games and they're like, oh, I'm really excited to see this in action. That's a tie that's unbreakable, especially if sometimes I pick games that are free out that week. So it'd be like, man, this game was so good. We played it on a giant screen with 80 students. Oh, by the way, it's free for you to download right now. I'm not trying to be a marketing manager, but I want them to understand that they can engage with their own learning in a way that when we come back the next week, somebody raises their hand and say, oh,
Yeah.
I tried this and this and this. And I thought it was Padia and Ludia narratives. This is concepts of narrative now. But actually, it's more of, you know what I mean? These types of discussions are happening within the context of video games. So yeah, you are going to find your way, but you will not. Anytime I get sad, I just pick up a controller. That's been the rhythm for my entire life.
Yes, sir.
And there's a whole history, retroactively, a bunch of friends that are now realizing, oh, that's why he plays so many video games. Because I just never gave up on my belief. You're not going to tell me. I have stacks of games that are too high, of specific things that are going through in my life. I have the entire stack of when my parents lost their job for 12 years, and no one's going to tell me that those didn't save me. It's just nice.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And even my mom made note one time when I was talking to her, because when I came into the esport industry after my master's, she still didn't fully grasp gaming and esports despite being in it. And while she was trying to learn and understand this industry, she's like, you just never lost your love for esports and gaming, did you? Well, she used the word gaming. She didn't know esports. She's like, it was just like almost no matter what you did in life, you always came back to gaming. And I was like, it's just like, it's so fundamental to who I am. And I think about my field, like performance psychology and mental performance coaching and all those kind of things, it gives me a unique position because a lot of people coming into the industry now, they think like traditional sports, they think like business people. And I, like, to my core, think like an esport person or a gamer. So it's like I can understand when somebody's getting tilted on stage. Like, I get it. It's not hypothetical or theoretical to me. Like, I understand why you were yelling at your teammate right now. I get it. And so it gives me a unique position in the field, and I'm having so much fun with it.
So all I hear coming out of your mouth is, we need you as a professor in academia. That's all I hear coming out of your mouth. Because for you to stand in front of a class and say exactly what you just said, I could see students sitting like they sit in my class. It's like, whoa, that's how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just need to see some kind of mirror in what they feel inside. And like, yeah, man. Yeah. There are replays of me playing Smash against students all over like TikTok and stuff. I don't know what they're snapping in class. People losing their minds watching my replays in Smash. There's no question when they see me in the classroom. I actually teach with a Steam controller as my clicker. They're like, this guy either has problems or he's that hardcore about video games. I'm not suggesting that everybody needs to be hardcore gamers, but just love the thing and do the thing if you can, if you're able to.
Yeah, absolutely. And even for me, like jumping back to that example earlier, like all it took was for my professor to be open to it. But if you have a professor that's actively engaged in it, how much further are you going to push students? Like, anybody that's even like remotely riding that line of should I go into game design? Should I go into this? Having somebody that like actively pushes you to pursue it would be huge. I would like, one day I will absolutely be a professor, because I would love to encourage people and build that next generation of gamers and esport athletes and streamers and whatever other kind of profession people want to find.
I would argue that you already are. I would. Okay, I have to get going.
All right.
Because I'm working on my studio.
Yep.
So yeah. Awesome. It's been great as always. Thank you so much for the time.
You bet.
But yeah, we should do this again sometime. Just let me know.
We should definitely. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know that I said it was only going to take 30 to 40 minutes, and I think we're probably sitting closer to an hour right now. So I appreciate your time and coming on and chatting and just throwing all your wisdom out everywhere.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, we'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys all later. Have a good one.
All right, sounds good.